When you're in the city, you get that feeling of I'm part of this way bigger thing than myself, and it works like a ticking clock, like everything just moves in synchronization, and the noises and the smells and people and the horn honking and traffic noises and just everything about the city is intoxicating at times, but then you also have it where it's so intoxicating that you just want to throw up. All right, that's it.
Hi, I'm Jax. I'm an artist crafter here on YouTube, and I'm going to walk you through this new project that I have created. I've started with an old canvas that I placed large amounts of paint on top of the canvas, and then I placed saran wrap on top of that, put it into a pattern, and allowed it to dry for 3 days. I pulled off the saran wrap, and I have this amazing texture on the piece, and I'm sorry I don't have it filmed for you. However, I started this project about a year ago, and I'm just finishing it up now. I started off by taking out one of my Tim Holtz stencils and using some texture paste and placing that in the stencil and allowing that to dry. Once it's dry, I take out my Distress Oxide inks, and I put a bunch of color on the texture, and I spritz some water and use my finger to move the paint around. Take out a bunch of ribbon, not knowing which one I want to use, and I'm kind of like putting everything everywhere, thinking, I kind of want to put a quote on here and use a stencil on the piece. So I'm like, okay, well, I think I'm going to use that silver ribbon. I take out some basic black paint. I make sure that I cover the sides of the piece because when it's hanging on the wall, I don't necessarily want to frame it. So I want to make sure those sides are covered to make it look finished. And I give it a little bit of dimension by putting a little bit of black paint in the creases of the texture. I take out my Craftsmart stencil. I make sure that the paint is all dry on the canvas, and I place the self-adhesive stencil onto the piece. Take out my black paint, use a stencil brush, and make sure that I'm moving the brush up and down vertically to not get it underneath the stencil and pushing that through consistently until it's all covered. I take out my beige paint and I make sure to cover the stars, which I could have done without doing the stars. But it looks okay. When I do the big reveal, I love it. And I really like that silver ribbon next to it. I'm taking out my Nouveau black crystal drops, and I'm just putting some dimension on the edges of the corners just to give the city a little bit more dimension. I'm also taking out some copper penny Nouveau crystal drops, and I'm adding those into the sky as twinkle lights from the stars.
The stars up above in the city, all the city lights, they're so pretty. The lights, the lights, the lights, the lights, the lights, the lights, the lights.
And I'm also taking out my white and my turquoise, and I also think I have some blush pink in there. And then I take out my glossy accents, and I take that glossy accents and I go crazy nuts with it and fill out every single square that is on that canvas with that glossy accents, and I let that dry before I move forward. You can really see the texture of the glossy accents and the saran wrap with the stenciling that I did on here. I'm really starting to like the results. So then I come up with this really great quote that I found online. I start to use my brush thinking that I can totally pull this off. No, I couldn't. So then I go and I grab my Molotow black marker and I think, oh, I'll just write on it. Well, there's so much texture. There's no way I can do that. So the only thing that I could possibly think of to do is to take that ribbon and a black piece of paper and put the ribbon down and then place that on there with some Martha Stewart all adhesive glue, making sure that it's straight with my ruler. You know, I've become a crazy ruler person now. I cut a few strips of black paper and I test out all my different markers just to see which one's gonna show up the best on the paper, and I agree that it's probably my silver Molotow that looks the best. And then I take and I write out the quote in freehand.
My own writing.
And I'm trying not to really worry about being straight or whatever, but that water being on the side there, that really bothered me. So I had to do it over, and I'm glad I cut multiple strips just for this purpose.
She was free in her wildness. She was a wanderess, a drop of free water. She belonged to no man and no city. Roman Payne.
I love this quote. I identify with it completely. I love being able to go where I want, when I want, all the time. I move quite a bit.
All my friends will tell you.
I don't believe I belong to any city, but currently live near the Minneapolis area. It's a beautiful town, and we have a lot of things going on here.
The Mall of America, the Guthrie, the Stone Arch Bridge near the Mississippi. We have the Twins, the Vikings, the Gophers, the Wild, the Timberwolves. And don't forget about our a million gazillion mosquitoes. A million gazillion mosquitoes. Or is it a bazillion gazillion mosquitoes? I don't know. Oh, and the over 10,000 lakes thing.
I do take out my Wink of Stella pen and I add a little bit of glitz and glam all over the place.
Oh, it sparkles, it sparkles. I love all the sparkle, the sparkle, the sparkle. I love all the sparkle. I love it, I love it, I love all the sparkle. Wink of Stella. Stella!
I want to add a little bit of texture to the corners to create a little small vignette. That I do with my vintage photo distress inks. Add a little bit more of the crystal drops I'm constantly adding here. But I finally decide it's finished and I name it A Drop of Free Water and I sign it with my name, Jacqueline Ottman. I add the date and the year just that I know when I created it because I will forget.
I'm getting old.
And there you have it, folks. I have a complete piece that's going on my walls. It's hanging there right now and I love it. You can see the back here. The canvas was very, very thin. It was like a fabric. I love that texture on there from the saran wrap. I think that's something that I will definitely do again in future pieces. I'll be sure to record it so that you guys can check it out.
I used to want to live in the city really, really, really bad. I almost was in a loft in the city, and that didn't work out. But I ended up in the country, more south of the city, and fell in love with the small town. Well, fell in love with more of the rural setting, even though I was still in a suburb. But I really enjoyed that type of living, even though I don't live that way anymore. But I do really want to go up north, even though I truly do have an affectionate love for the city. It's just I don't want to live there. I want to look at the city on my wall. I don't want to be in the city.
If you are interested in what else I create on this channel, consider subscribing because I'd love to have you as a viewer. Love you guts. Bye.